Hey everyone, lots of breaking news out there today. We got droughts going on in Italy, Spain. We got droughts a lot of places. Midwest United States that we're going to be talking about. We got a big rail news update on rail strike in the United States. We are getting definitive news on that here. We got Saudis buying Russian oil. We got the Swedish defense folks coming out and telling their people to start buying food, stockpiling food and water. We have dock workers striking in Germany. We got West Coast dock workers about to go into strike. We got energy issues. We got trucking issues. We got Saudi Arabia opening airspace to the Israelis. And we have the International Red Cross Red Crescent Society, which is the Red Cross, but like international, starting to train all of their folks on how to handle chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear situations that they may encounter out there in the field. And we have another major oil gas pipeline fire that I have not reported on here yet. Haven't heard anyone else reporting on that. That was tipped off by a subscriber here. Like I said, lots of information to get through. Let's jump right into it. Northern Italy, they have a drought that is threatening their oil, their olive oil, risotto rice, and passata supplies. I don't know what some of that is, but it sounds Italian to me. So this is the worst drought they've had in 70 years, and they're saying could drive prices on a lot of these Italy-specific products up by 50%. So if you like fancy Italian food that is authentic, you are not going to like this report. They are reporting that Italian production of olive oil could be between 20% and 30% down as compared to last year. Of course, that's going to drive prices up more than those type, and they're looking at possibly 50% increase before people start buying other products to substitute. This is also going to hit hard because Spain is having a drought as well, and they are looking at their crops of olives being down by 15%. So we are seeing across the board a lot of olives being hit. We already are seeing olive oil and olive shortages out there on the shelves. This is not going to make things better. We got the drought. I reported on that several weeks ago. Flash drought hitting the Midwest, particularly the Mississippi River Valley, and also the Ohio River Valley, stretching all the way across Indiana even. And we are now seeing, if you watch the Drought Watch or the Drought Monitor, they have their maps that come up every week or so. Flash drought definition is an area that was not in drought suddenly going to a drought. That's just what it means. And we are seeing that this drought has hit suddenly. When you compare the map from 2 weeks ago to now, we are seeing orange across the Mississippi River Valley, stretching up all the way up into Indiana. And so that is a lot of the Corn Belt and also the Rice Belt for the United States. We're also seeing blotches continuing down in the North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia areas. Those are not quite as severe or as extensive, but we are seeing a surprise flash drought hitting the Maine and New Hampshire areas, and Massachusetts as well. I'm getting like a geography quiz right now. I don't have the names in front of me. I have a map in front of me. So there's a lot of droughts hitting a lot of places in the United States, which are very surprising. And that's not to talk about the drought out in the far Midwest, as well as the West, which we have been reporting on for well over a year now. That is continuing and is extremely severe as well. It's not quite as bad as it was before, but it's still quite up there. Texas drought has gotten worse over the past year. Let's jump right into this fun news item. Over in Saudi Arabia, they are purchasing double. Their purchases of Russian oil have doubled in the second quarter. So from April through the end of June, their oil purchases from Russia have doubled. Now you might say, wait a minute, Steve, don't they export oil? Well, yes, they do. They're one of the largest exporting oil nations in the world. And you say, well, then why are they importing Russian oil? Well, the answer to that is very simple. See, Russian oil is much cheaper than other oil. So they're importing cheap oil from Russia to burn in their power plants. And, well, let's just wonder how much of that's going into their exports as well. But we won't talk about that. Saudi Arabia has been documented doing that quite a bit, buying up as much oil as they can on the open market, and then they just mix it back in, and then they export it and count it against their numbers. It's sort of like somebody taking out loans and then counting it as part of their income just so they can get a higher credit score. Does that sound shady? If it does, you're right. It is. Basically, they are pretending like they have more oil reserves and more capacity to pump oil out of the ground than they really do. And, of course, they're one of the United States' greatest allies, but, of course, they're trying to join BRICS, which is the Brazil, Russia, India, China, right? All right, out of Sweden, we see that in the malls in Sweden, they started getting a whole bunch of fancy new ads. Not really super fancy, but ads from the MSB, which is the Swedish Civil Contingencies Agency. They're running ads in all the malls. Picture 1. Something small can mean everything if the threats become reality. And that's going to be a recurring thing here. They have 4 sets of ads. Each one starts with that. Something small can mean everything if the threats become reality. That's the translation. First round is get yourself an alcohol stove and fuel. Second round is make sure to have enough water at home for 1 week. Round 3, make sure you have enough food at home for 1 week. And 4, make sure get yourself a radio that runs on batteries. Now, if I'm preaching to the choir here, you probably already have water for a week and food for a week and probably some way of cooking it for a week. I'm going to challenge you on that last one there. Do you have a radio with batteries that can pick up weather service bulletins as well as emergency bulletins? A shortwave radio. That's something that you should definitely look into. Okay, let's move on to what's going to really impact the United States. There's some folks out there really concerned about the rail workers' strike that's supposed to hit 100,000 rail workers across the United States and paralyze the entire network. And that has always been put with the caveat that the United States government, particularly the executive branch, can issue an executive order that requires all of those workers to show up at work and continue working, lest the infrastructure of the United States become paralyzed. That executive order was signed on Friday by President Joe Biden. And we're seeing that they are now required to enter into 60 days of discussion, and there will be a board that will be convened that will investigate the disputes. They will spend 30 days, and they will come to a resolution and will find either for the rail company or for the workers. And the labor unions are not allowed to strike, but how many of those rail workers are going to just not show up or call in sick or whatever else? And that is something to be concerned about still, but that executive order was anticipated, but it's how well that's going to go over to rail workers who are very overworked, overstressed, underpaid, and just fed up. That will remain to be seen. What the response from the union will be. There may be no official response, but there may be a whole bunch of sick-ins. And that could cripple the network as well if people are mad enough about it. Okay, let's skip over to the German ports. In the North Sea, Germany has 6 cities that dock workers have gone on strike, and cargo handling has come to a halt there. That is big news, and we are seeing a pileup of ships that equates to the pileup that we saw previously off the west coast of the United States. We're seeing that in the North Sea right now in Europe. They cannot unload those ships because there is no one to unload them. Europe is unlike the west coast of the United States in the fact that there are other ports relatively close that may be able to be unloaded at. So we will see if those ships start getting diverted to other ports. Whether that can be done as long as it's within the European Union, I don't know my customs laws on that and the logistics, whether that's possible or whether they'll go ahead with that or whether the ships will just wait. West Coast of the United States, dock workers are working on no contract right now. They've been 15 days without a contract. July 1st, their contract expired with no agreement between the 22,000 dock workers and the businesses that they work for. That is a big deal, but they are continuing talks right now, and they are stressing that they're going to continue to try to come to some sort of agreement. It seems like neither side wants to be blamed for messing up the infrastructure of the United States. Let's move on to Ukraine. We have initial estimates now coming out of what the grain looks like out of Ukraine. Total acreage planted for this past year was 25% lower, and yields are also decreasing. Understandably, there's a war going on, right? Fuel, workers are having to evacuate. There's all sorts of things happening there to decrease yields for sure. One Ukrainian government official expects a 41% decrease in total grain production this year. 41% decrease in grain production, folks. Argentina is also experiencing drought. So we are there are drought conditions, and they're expecting a cut in wheat yields by 4.3%. And China is continuing to export, put controls on exports of phosphates. They're going to export 45%, or decrease by 45%, the phosphates exported this year as opposed to last year. And last year they had the export ban over the last half of the year, so that is a big deal. That's about 30% of the phosphates that get exported around the world. They are cutting those still. Let's skip over to just kind of a warning in general that how gas stations often work is what they do is they will franchise and such like that. They will put bulk purchases in for gasoline. So with this sudden drop in gas prices, a lot of gas stations and chains are being stuck with gasoline that they bought at a very high price, and they're now being forced to sell it at low price, which could mean that they may have credit issues in the near future. They may have financial distress, and maybe as they are forced to sell at the lower prices, they may not be able to buy new stocks of gasoline because they got stuck buying high and then selling low. Truckers in California are organizing protests against the AB something law. Basically says that you can't be an independent contractor, and that has been applied to truckers. They are disrupting rail at BNSF, and they are refusing to take containers there. So we are seeing a backlog of 29,000 rail containers there, in part due to truck workers not complying with some things and not delivering containers to them. All right, Saudi Arabia, or I hinted at this, Saudi Arabia has agreed to open up their airspace to commercial Israeli air carriers. We have heard that they had, under the table, given authorization for Israel to operate in their airspace militarily if they're moving to strike Iran. So this is a big step there for them to normalize air relations with Israel. In this weekend, and this is just hitting this weekend, so Los Angeles Antifa and Portland Antifa plan to counter-protest planned freedom rallies by conservative groups this weekend. So be aware that that there are reports that they plan to do acts of violence against freedom rallies. If you are planning on going to freedom rallies on the West Coast in the United States today or tomorrow, please do be aware of those threats out there. It's not how it should be, but you do need to make sure that you are watching out for yourself and for the people around you. International Federation of Red Cross Red Crescent has sent out an email on July 15th, which I have a copy in my iPad right here, forwarded to me by one of our viewers, who remains anonymous, of course, but this is an invitation to join through the online learning platform CBRN Briefing, which is the chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear training on how to handle operating in a situation where you are coming in contact with chemical weapons or biological weapons or radiological weapons, so that's like a dirty bomb or something like that, and nuclear, which is more focused on the blast and the fallout from that. Be aware of that. Also, here's a report from one of our viewers, Matt. I won't say any more of his name, but you are limited to be able to buy 2 cases in various amounts of products in the case of diesel engine oil from Schaefer's Oil on their online store. Brother-in-law was at Napa last week, and they were talking about diesel engine oil shortages. I believe that was in Michigan. So be aware of that. Another pipeline fire here. Word is that the Kinder Morgan's Tennessee gas pipeline, they reported, and I reported on it previously, of the gas line explosion in Pennsylvania that is owned by Tennessee Gas Pipeline, which is not in Tennessee in this case. But this 11,900 mile pipeline links the northeast U.S. to the Texas Gulf Coast system. So this system up in Pennsylvania is feeding down into the Texas terminals that supply the natural gas onto the ships that then are going to Europe. So this is yet another, I was wondering if this gas line was linked up with Texas, and the answer is yes, it is. But in addition to that, there was another fire that I did not pick up on in Hamilton, Alabama, which is said to impact even more barrels per day effectively than the explosion in Pennsylvania, which was a major fire. So we have two pipelines that are feeding into the Texas system for natural gas that exploded in the last several days. That is big news out there too, folks. And finally, let me just cover this, that there is a report from Reuters out there. They are saying that in Germany, that they are expecting people who had a gas bill, a winter energy bill of 1,500 euros last year, it could rise to 4,700 euros. Triple the cost of energy in Germany going into this winter, folks. They go into the question of whether this will cause civil unrest. And the answer to that is it just very well could be. What would you do if your winter energy bills tripled? I don't know about you, but when I pay the power bill, I'm on straight electricity here in the up in Pittsburgh area. But if you have natural gas, whatever, ouch, right? Just regular bills from power companies during the winter. It's a painful process. Triple that bill, and I would get downright unruly. And that, I think, would go for a lot of us out there. And so that's what we're facing in Germany in the best case right now without the gas shutoffs. If the gas shutoffs continue to Germany, we could see even worse scenarios play out over the next several months. Folks, that is your roundup of what's going on in the world. Food shortages and the empty shelves out there continuing, and I have a report that's coming out later today on that. God bless you all. If you like this video, you might want to check out these videos right here. Otherwise, I will see you later. Steve Poplar, out.